So, good morning, ladies, gentlemen, Nuffield scholars. I'm here this morning to present my study, which was Poultry Manure, a study into storage, byproduct capabilities and the impact on the environment. So, apologies for picking a shit subject. I'd also like to thank the British Egg Marketing Board Trust and the Nuffield Scholarship Programme for making this possible. So I live with my wife Emma, and I'm part of a family farming business in North Yorkshire. We farm 3 main enterprises of poultry, dairy and arable. We also have rental units and various renewables from solar, biomass and hydroelectric. I've grown up in farming and worked across all these enterprises, where I now take a leading role in our poultry enterprise, doing the day-to-day responsibilities of 3 26,000 bird laying units, our own rearing unit and home mill and mixing on top of that. So there's been growth in the poultry industry, and in broilers alone they have grown 1.9% year on year over the last 5 years, and in layers since 2006 has grown from 260 million eggs year on year until the year 2021. The last few years has seen a downturn with high rising input costs, avian influenza and access to labour. So from my own farm alone, we're now producing over 30 tonnes of manure a week, and overwinter storage is becoming a challenge. And even in soil sampling, we're now finding high phosphates in the soil. So this identifies the challenge that the poultry industry faces with poultry manure. I was keen to learn alternative options and find out what's available and dealing with ever-tightening legislations, as well as just promoting good farm practice and good ways of working. So with a historically growing industry, this has led to an increased quantity of poultry manure, and overwinter storage has an environmental impact. Poultry manure contains a good resource of nitrogen and phosphorus for growing crops if applied correctly, but can also cause contamination through soils and watercourses and hurting the land and water quality. This also highlights the need to develop technologies for handling and disposing of poultry manure. Also some bad press. But it's not all doom and gloom, there is opportunities. So poultry manure can be used as an organic fertiliser and soil improver when used correctly. The more processed poultry manure can have less reliance on artificial fertilisers, and processing can also offer volume reduction and increase nutrient levels. As well, poultry manure can also be a fuel source for gas, electric or heat. So I was keen to explore internationally and see what emerging industries were available. And using the Nuffield network and my own poultry network, I was looking for proven concepts which are becoming more viable for handling manures. And dealing with organic waste is an international problem. So research into these applied technologies could be suited for different industries. So my first trip was to Gran Canaria. So I'd looked into composting, and it either takes a huge area of land or a huge amount of energy through vessel composting. But here I found research that used a biocatalyst. And they used tomato plant waste, which was chopped and shredded, and then run through a biocatalyst, and it produced a composting up to 24 hours. For my visit alone, we actually managed to get hold of some poultry manure and run that through the plant. From my visit, we found that it needed to be blended with a carbon product to make it like a marketable product at the end. But it also offered other advantages. It wiped any smell from the manure, and it also killed any pathogens as well. So I found that really interesting. Another visit into Austria, so Slovenia, I saw with Big Dutchman. So I was with Franz Josef Straub there, he's the product manager of Big Dutchman. Went to a drying plant. So the manure was dried on belts, and it used the exhaust heat from the poultry sheds already there. Once it reached 80% dry matter, he could then run it through the pelleting plant, which gave a marketable product. running it through the pellet press generated heat to up to 90 degrees. So any manure run through the press had killed any pathogens, and being dried to 80% reduced any smell. So it gave good storage. He also gave an example that in Vietnam they were putting a ban on artificial fertilizers and looking to import more manures. So I also had a visit to mainland poultry in New Zealand. They'd had a lot of investment there, and it was really interesting to see that they all had modern European equipment. So, and I also had a look around the dairy industry as well. So with having such a large livestock industry, the legislations were being tightened up, and as we were creating issues with water quality. So they were also keen to, they were also having a lot of audit schemes brought out as well, so they were keen to know my learnings of the Lion Code and the RSPCA assured audit schemes. So they actually learned quite a lot from me, I think, on that visit. So the Netherlands, I love the Netherlands. Everything was innovative, and it didn't even have to be complicated. So this farmer had built his own manure drying floor and his own little manure spreader. So he spread the manure evenly across the floor. Once it was dry, he then heaped it up to the back and he monitored the temperatures. And when it reached 60 degrees for 1 minute, it was then a compostable product, which then reduced the volume up to 25%, and it also reduced pathogens again. So I found that, well, so good. It was such an on-farm approach as well. So I really liked that. And also in the Netherlands, I went to see a methane digester. He was only used waste products. So he was a potato grower and a broiler farmer. 50% of the feedstock that went into there was broiler manure. The rest was potato waste, tulip waste, onion waste, clippings from the roadside. And from that, he was able to generate up to 1,500 kilowatts of electrical energy, which was then sold back into the grid. The heat from that then heated his broiler sheds. His secondary heat was then used to heat the digestate out of his digester before it entered the lagoon, again killing pathogens. And any heat he had left over, he was drying potato waste, shredding it, and it made a starch product that went into pet food. So I was just blown away by that guy. He was just a machine. And again in the UK, so we've seen a lot of press around the River Wye area, and I went to see a broiler farm there, and they'd just installed a litter burner. So it gave a use for the manure they were using. It also, they were importing up to 4,000 tonnes of wood chip, so it reduced the reliance on that. And yeah, gave a use for a product on farm. And also Harper Adams, I went to see they'd actually made a scaled down digester to prove a concept that it didn't have to be huge colossal investment. It could be scaled down. And from the back of this, we were doing research into stripping nutrients, and they could filter out 96.6% of nitrogen through biochar filters, and through another process called electrocoagulation, yep, they could filter out 95% of the phosphorus. So they could make tailor-made fertilizers. So I found that hugely beneficial as well. So my conclusions. Every poultry enterprise manages their operation differently, and one solution may not benefit others. Manure from the broiler industry is generally drier and may be better suited for energy production and more layers to more organic fertilizers. Areas with higher population of poultry and tighter legislations leads to innovation. Poultry manure is not a waste product and value can be added. And poultry manure cannot be stored outside for long-term periods without having environmental impact. So I have some learnings and recommendations. So research is underway in the industry. No one option will work for every business. There's a complex challenge to overcome due to the variances in composition with poultry manure. Clearer guidance is needed on legislation. Further funding should be made available for R&D. Cross-collaborations is needed in the industry to further knowledge. And thank you for listening.